Hello and welcome to the EMDR Doctor Podcast. I'm Dr. Caroline Lloyd and this is episode 47. And recently I have been chatting to a couple of young doctors about their career trajectory. Such interesting and heartfelt conversations because these young doctors are so committed to helping people, so enthused about the science and the art of medicine, and they have so much regard for their patients, so much education, and yet they have so much despair about continuing medicine that one considered leaving medicine and going to start a cleaning business, and one was imagining just knuckling down, making enough money to retire in the next 10 years and then leaving altogether. Both of these wonderful young doctors were getting up in the morning with a sense of dread, wondering about what mistakes they were going to make that day, wondering what their bosses would think, worrying about being revealed to be deficient or dumb. Now, these are two of the most intelligent and thoughtful people that you could hope to meet. They are just white-knuckling their way through the day, stretched tight with anxiety and getting to the end of the day with relief, having got through another work day, feeling like they're just on borrowed time, that they're going to be found out any moment, and despair about having to do it all again tomorrow. There's this constant thought of, I'm not good enough, what am I even doing here? Everyone can see what a failure I am. And their most urgent impulse is to get out of there, to leave and never come back, which would be an absolute tragedy. Now, I know that I could substitute the word doctor here for almost every profession. I have friends in corporate, in government, in teaching who have the exact same fears and concerns. And in the old days, we might have called it a lack of self-esteem or low confidence. Now we have a beautiful title for it, Imposter Syndrome. And it can apply to any gender, any age, any profession, any area of life. The common factors are a belief about not being good enough, fear about being caught out, thinking that achievements are just luck, and working really hard to try and be perfect and to compensate for that perceived lack of talent or lack of ability. I have had my own experience of imposter syndrome, not recently, as I feel like I have kind of found my calling and my tribe in the field of EMDR. But earlier in my career, I had quite severe imposter syndrome. When I got into med school in the 1980s, yes, I am old, I achieved the HSC mark. And that's another marker of being old. I didn't do VCE, I did HSC. And my HSC mark just scraped me into med school. And I had this ongoing fear that someone would find out that I shouldn't have been allowed in, that as the last one in, I would be the first one they chucked out. And this fear followed me through my whole career at uni and then into the next probably 20 years of my GP life. Imposter syndrome is incredibly well hidden, and I don't think many people who were in my sphere knew how badly anxious I was about losing my job, losing my role, losing my career and my whole identity. And from the outside, often that individual looks amazing. And most people would have no idea that that person is suffering so greatly and so tormented by the thoughts of not belonging and not achieving. Importantly, feeling like an imposter does not mean that you are one. Thoughts are not truths, as we know from our CBT therapy, but how do you get rid of it? So, more interestingly, how can EMDR help you get rid of it? So EMDR therapy, we work in the past, the present and the future. And taking this framework to solving the imposter syndrome, we might look for the early origins of those beliefs around I'm not good enough or I don't belong here. Very likely, we all find some childhood memories of being ridiculed or put down for not performing at school or not performing in the family, or maybe some bullying memories around exclusion, about not being let into that childhood club or that friendship group, or maybe exclusion from the family, or maybe some memories involving shaming someone for not achieving. And if we work on those memories and we resolve the distress around them, then we can bolster some good adaptive beliefs around I do my best, my efforts are good enough, I have skills, I can solve problems, or other really helpful positive beliefs. And we can also work from a strengths-based perspective with some really simple resourcing, enhancing those memories of having done well or having been accepted. Most people do have some available memories of having achieved something good, and we can enhance that, as well as taking out the roadblocks of the bad, distressing memories. We can enhance the good memories of having done well and having been accepted. So the other thing we can do is perhaps remove some of the barriers to actually accepting praise or positive comments. And there is a marvelous protocol called the Positive Affect Tolerance Protocol. This is I think it's an Andrew Leeds protocol. And this helps people with the belief that I'm doing a good job, and helps that belief get stronger, and just allows some warm fuzzies to develop, letting yourself feel good and feel praiseworthy, and then accepting the praise as it comes in. So with EMDR, we might also look at present day triggers or situations where the imposter syndrome is very present. For one surgeon I know, that's the moment of suturing up the patient at the end of the operation. So most surgeons by that phase are feeling pretty good and pretty relaxed. They've done their job. There's just this small task to do at the end of it, which is sewing up the wound. But for this particular surgeon, it's the moment of highest anxiety. For some people outside of the medical sphere, these triggers might be presenting in a meeting, talking to the boss, starting a new day or a new project, meeting new team members. And so resolving those triggers as a present day target can be so helpful. And then working into the future, so working through future expected difficulties or concerns about future difficulties, and settling down the anticipatory anxiety will be really helpful. And then taking those good feelings into future targets, and it's kind of like rehearsing future targets with those good, positive, adaptive beliefs about yourself. So I'm acceptable, I work hard, I know my stuff, I have skills, taking the good feelings with them and applying them to future events. So what's the difference between just anxiety and imposter syndrome? And this is a really good question. So today I just happened to be listening to a Jay Shetty podcast when I was going on my walk with my greyhound, Richard. And so Richard was doing his thing, smelling all the roses, so to speak. And I was ambling along listening to this podcast. And Jay Shetty talks about imposter syndrome and his experiences of it. Now, I hate to contradict such a leader in the wellness field, but I do think that he might be confusing anxiety with imposter syndrome. So he talks about the idea of flow being when your skills match the challenges. So skills and challenges are equal, and that's a state of flow. You're using all your skills to solve the challenges that you're presented with. And that's a lovely idea and a lovely space to be in. When your skills are more advanced than your challenges, so skills are higher than challenges, you might be in a bit of a state of boredom. And also, that's not particularly distressing. It might be a little frustrating, but it's not particularly distressing, doesn't particularly need treatment. But when your skills are lower than the challenges, this is what Jay Shetty calls imposter syndrome, the anxiety around that situation of your skills being lower, your challenges being greater. But I think this is actually missing a huge part of the definition of imposter syndrome, that despite all of our qualifications and our skill level, despite that, we still feel a sense of inadequacy that is unfounded, but it's pervasive and it's difficult and it's distressing. And these doctors that I've been talking to, they have the skills, they have the experience to manage the challenges that they're facing, and they are managing the challenges. They're just overcome with this sense of being not good enough, of this fear of being found out, of being discovered to be deficient, even though they've worked for a really long time and they've done that work for years and they have that very high level of skill, high level of proficiency. So I guess the difference is that most people will experience some anxiety if they've been asked to do something outside of their skill level. But people with imposter syndrome experience this anxiety even when they are perfectly qualified and perfectly capable. So in that situation, they should be in a state of flow, confident and easy, absorbed in the work without being overcome by it. So in treating the imposter syndrome, we would find the history, find the events that are sort of impeding that state of flow, and remove those blocks using EMDR so that that state of flow, of ease, of competence and confidence is much more available. And that leads to really great enjoyment of work, even though sometimes it may be difficult. So it is possible, it is doable, and an EMDR therapist can work with you to find that way forward. So I would love to hear about your experience of imposter syndrome. So please feel free to comment in the comments below if you're watching on YouTube, or feel free to send me an email at admin@therapynest.com.au. If you would like to explore this for yourself and work with me on your imposter syndrome, drop me a line, let me know, and we can find a way forward together. I am also about to open up some spots in my week for consultation for EMDR therapists. So if you are a therapist, if you happened to be interested in getting some consultation with me, please do shoot me an email and we can figure out a time to suit. All right, I hope that's been helpful. I will talk to you again next week. In the meantime, take good care. Bye for now.